Humanity's heroes got wrecked, so they built a giant magic wall to hold back the Demon King. For generations, mages powered this barrier while new heroes were sent to fight, but every single one of them failed, leaving only their swords behind. 30 years later, that barrier is still the only thing standing. This is Blake, a 39-year-old barrier mage just waking up, and he starts his day like any other, getting ready for work. His job is to maintain the barrier from his secluded little cabin, which involves casually greeting the horde of demons trying to break through. It is just another Tuesday holding back an army from hell for this guy. He notices the barrier feels a little weaker than usual today, getting to work reinforcing it with his own magical power. This magic circle flares to life, pushing back the demonic onslaught, though it is clearly taking a lot out of him just to keep it up. Blake realizes the barrier is weakening faster these days, demanding more mana, making him hope a new hero shows up to end this whole thing soon. Meanwhile, a new hero is finally confronting the Demon King himself. She immediately charges forward, not wasting a single second, clashing with him in a massive burst of destructive energy. With a battle cry, she brings her holy sword down for the attack, but the Demon King does not even look slightly concerned. She lands a devastating blow, driving her holy sword straight through the Demon King's chest, who cannot believe it, coughing up blood as he realizes he has actually been defeated. He collapses while muttering about how unforgivable this is, fading into nothing, leaving the hero to stand tall and declare their hard-earned victory. A massive pillar of light erupts from the Demon King's castle, signaling the end of the war, and our boy Blake sees it from his cabin, completely stunned by the sight. Surrounded by dissolving monster corpses, he wonders if the heroes really pulled it off. Looking up, he sees the demonic miasma finally starting to disappear from the sky, and the corrupted land itself begins to heal right before his eyes. He is grinning from ear to ear, realizing the world is finally at peace now. After 30 long years of maintaining the barrier, he is just happy everyone can live safely, and he can finally relax and enjoy a clear sky for the first time in decades. 1 month later, though, a group of knights shows up at his secluded cabin. This leader points right at him, coldly stating that he is no longer needed. Blake is completely blindsided, just stammering in confusion at the sudden declaration. This knight then accuses him of wasting public funds on a useless barrier, calling him a fraud. Our guy tries to explain his job was to keep the miasma and monsters contained, but the knight just scoffs, saying he does not care what some incompetent low-tier mage did. He then shoves Blake out of his own home, yelling that the hut and land belong to the country now. So after 30 years of service, he is just kicked to the curb with nothing. Blake cannot believe that after 30 years of dedicated service, this is how it ends. With no other choice, he decides to head back to the village where he grew up, eventually arriving at the Adventurers Guild in a small town called Hatino. He is at the counter looking at his payment, which is just a handful of coins. And he immediately complains to the guild master that the reward is way too small. This guild master is obviously not having it, getting right in his face, yelling at Blake not to complain since he is just a barrier mage after all, leaving our guy to wonder if his 30 years of work were truly useless. This next day, he is back at the guild anyway since he has no other job prospects, and he is practically begging the receptionist for any kind of work, no matter how low the pay is. She just shuts him down, saying no one requests useless barrier mages anymore. So Blake desperately asks about odd jobs like weeding, but she says even those are gone, while two other adventurers in the back start mocking him for his useless class. Defeated, he just stands there alone at the counter with nowhere to go, until the door to the guild bursts open as someone calls out, and a royal knight steps inside, specifically asking for a barrier mage named Blake. Everyone in the guild is stunned, wondering why the royal knights are in this tiny village. So Blake nervously raises his hand, confirming that he is the one they are looking for. This knight just gives him a cold, hard stare in return, and our boy has absolutely no idea what is going on. This knight announces they are here on orders from the hero Alice to escort him to the capital, and the adventurers who were just mocking him are completely losing their minds at the news. Blake calmly agrees to go, so the knight says they need to depart immediately. Outside, a ridiculously fancy carriage is waiting just for him, leaving the guild members to panic about whether they should apologize before they get in major trouble. With that, the carriage rolls out of the village, taking Blake on his unexpected trip. He is sitting inside feeling totally out of his element in such a luxurious ride, still trying to process the fact that he was summoned by the hero herself. Then he remembers helping a young adventurer once, wondering if she actually remembered him for it. They soon arrive at the massive royal capital of the Hendria Kingdom, a city called Miston. Our boy is just stunned, having never seen a place this big or so many people before. Their carriage makes its way through the bustling streets and across a bridge toward the palace. Walking down a ridiculously grand hallway, Blake feels more out of place than ever, until a voice calls out to him, making him look up in surprise. It is the hero Alice, and she looks incredibly happy to finally see him. She asks if he remembers helping her near the demon realm, which he confirms he does. Alice is absolutely beaming, so glad that he has not forgotten their encounter. She thanks him again, saying he really saved her when she got separated from her party. Blake just plays it cool, saying it was not a big deal and he helped her friends too. She explains her companions also wanted to see him but are tied up in ceremonies for now. Alice is totally hyped, asking what he is gonna do now that the war is over, and Blake just laughs it off, though he is secretly panicking about being unemployed. She immediately suggests he join the Royal Magician Corps, thinking it is a perfect fit, but some smug-looking captain named Gunther shuts that down hard, calling barrier mages incompetent. Alice is not having it, reminding him that barrier mages were the reason they could even fight the war, which this guy just scoffs at, claiming the barrier was basically useless anyway. He doubles down, saying barrier mages are completely unnecessary in this new era of peace. Blake is just floored, realizing how much the reputation of his class has tanked over the last 30 years. He is clenching his fist, absolutely furious that his life's work is being treated like a joke. Then Gunther calls him an old man who is too washed up for a real job. This final insult is him claiming Blake has no skills, which clearly ticks Alice off, so she challenges him, asking if it is okay as long as Blake proves he has skills. Gunther smugly agrees, saying if Blake can beat him, a vice captain, he is in. He frames it as a simple test for a mid-career applicant needing to see if he is combat ready. This guy then puts Blake on the spot, asking him what he is going to do. But before he can even answer, Alice whispers that she believes in him. Her words of encouragement seem to be all he needed to get his game face on. Next thing you know, they are standing across from each other in some kind of training yard. Our boy is still wondering how he got roped into a duel just for answering a summons, while Gunther formally introduces himself, ready to throw down and prove his point. Gunther immediately goes for the kill shot, launching a massive fireball at Blake. And our boy just stands there as the attack barrels towards him, resulting in a huge explosion that rocks the entire training yard. All the other mages start cheering, thinking the fight is already over, while Gunther gets super smug, laughing about teaching a lowly barrier mage a lesson. His victory lap is cut short when he realizes something is off, because Blake is standing there without a scratch, wondering when the test is gonna start. Everyone is completely stunned that he tanked the vice captain's magic like it was nothing, leaving Gunther in total disbelief since he was genuinely trying to end him. Blake then casually mentions that he will start getting a little serious now, which just makes Gunther rage out and power up an even bigger attack. This time, Blake puts up a swirling blue barrier to block the incoming inferno, and the attack explodes harmlessly against his defense. Gunther goes full-on anime villain, summoning a giant firebird to incinerate him, making his own subordinates freak out that he is going way too far. They are convinced no one could possibly survive a spell of that magnitude, but inside the flames, Blake is just analyzing the magic, finding it strangely weak. He is genuinely confused, wondering if Gunther is still holding back for some reason. As the smoke clears, everyone expects to see a crater where Blake used to be, only to find him standing there perfectly fine, leaving Gunther absolutely speechless. Gunther is still reeling, unable to process how a low-level barrier mage is still standing, so he starts trash-talking again, saying defense is useless if Blake cannot even attack, and he dares our boy to try and fight back if he is so frustrated, which Blake just calmly accepts, saying he will do exactly that. This completely short-circuits Gunther's brain, who has no idea what Blake is talking about, until Blake summons a glowing blue cube right in front of his face, and then launches it forward like a cannonball, absolutely decking the vice captain. Gunther gets sent flying backwards, completely blindsided by the impact, leaving his subordinates to just stare in shock, wondering what the hell just happened. From across the yard, Gunther is screaming that barrier mages should not be able to attack, but Blake just casually explains that all he did was move the barrier he created. This explanation makes Gunther even angrier since barriers are supposed to be stationary, though our boy just laughs, saying that after 30 years he has gotten pretty good at it. Even Alice is stunned, whispering that moving a barrier should be impossible, like he is cheating, while the other mages finally get it, realizing this useless mage is dominating their boss. Meanwhile, Gunther is having a full-on meltdown, refusing to accept he is losing to someone he called trash. And his pride is so shattered that he decides he has to go for the kill now. He gives a subtle look to his subordinates standing behind Blake, who seem hesitant but understand the order they have just been given, and they all start powering up, getting ready to jump our boy from behind. One of the mages lobs a cheap shot at Blake's back while he is distracted, and the flame spell hits him dead on, erupting in a fiery blast, only for a passive barrier to activate automatically, completely negating the damage, leaving everyone absolutely stunned, though Alice looks like she totally expected it. Blake just turns around asking if a stone hit him, not even realizing it was an attack. Gunther is losing his mind, wondering how a barrier could just activate on its own, which is when Alice finally steps in, having seen more than enough of this nonsense. She gives Gunther a stone-cold glare, telling him he has seen the proof and this is his only warning. But this guy's pride is so broken that he refuses to accept the L, powering up for one last attack, unleashing a massive inferno because he thinks going all out is the only way to impress Alice now, and his own men start freaking out that he is casting advanced magic that will hit them too. He is completely unhinged, screaming that he is going to end this with his full power. Then launches the giant fireball straight at our boy, yelling for him to die. This other mages are scrambling for their lives, screaming for everyone to run from the blast radius, but Alice just stands there calmly, thinking a normal barrier cannot stop that, but Blake is not normal. She flashes back to the time he saved her when she was just a kid surrounded by giant monsters, and the memory of his protection fills her with absolute confidence in him. She remembers how he effortlessly created a barrier that wiped out every single enemy around them, bringing her back to the present where she knows without a doubt that he will not lose. Gunther can only scream in disbelief as Blake stops his ultimate attack with just 2 fingers. Gunther is on his knees, completely shattered by his own pathetic defeat, and he is totally losing it, realizing his strongest magic was completely useless. His subordinates see he is out of mana, which means the barrier mage just won. So Alice triumphantly declares victory, saying this proves Blake is qualified to join. She then points out that he has been single-handedly protecting the world for 30 years, but Gunther, desperate to save face, demands to know where the other barrier mages are. A nearby knight reports that an investigation found the other mages are no longer at their posts, and this news just completely breaks Gunther's brain. It turns out the others either died, deserted, or got caught embezzling funds over the years, leading everyone to the insane realization that Blake was holding the line all by himself. Even Blake is just now connecting the dots, figuring out that is why his mana kept growing. Gunther is still screaming in denial, ranting about how the demon world is bigger than their kingdom, and he just cannot comprehend one person maintaining a barrier on that impossible scale. Meanwhile, Alice is just beaming, thinking Blake is even more amazing than she remembered. Suddenly, a new voice cuts through the chaos, asking what all the commotion is about, and Gunther looks absolutely terrified, recognizing the person who just arrived. It is the captain of the first unit, Lancelot, and he does not look pleased. This guy is apparently the top dog of the entire Royal Magician Corps, making Gunther look even smaller. He walks right up to the disgraced vice captain, demanding to know what is going on here. Alice calmly explains that she recommended Blake, but Gunther doubted his abilities and started a fight. Alice quickly explains to the captain that they were just conducting a simple practical test, and Lancelot just looks at Gunther, coldly pointing out that he clearly lost the fight. Gunther immediately starts making excuses, claiming he was just going easy on a lowly barrier mage. But the captain cuts him off, telling him he has had enough of his pathetic excuses. Our boy Gunther is just sweating, totally unable to talk his way out of this one, because Lancelot lays down the law, saying if you have the skills, you are in, period. He then turns to Blake and officially welcomes him as a member of the Royal Magician Corps. This other mages cannot believe it, whispering about how a barrier mage actually got in. While Blake is still trying to process that he is joining the kingdom's most elite unit, he is even having a bit of imposter syndrome, wondering if he is really cut out for this. Until Alice snaps him out of it, congratulating him and saying she believed in him all along. Blake gives her all the credit, brushing it off and suggesting they go celebrate with some food, which is when Lancelot pops up behind her, asking if she really has time for that. He grabs Alice to drag her back to work, leaving her calling out for Blake as she is taken away. This captain then gets in Blake's face, asking what his relationship is with the hero Alice, and gives him a subtle warning about people trying to use her for their own gain. With that, he leads Blake away, leaving a totally humiliated Gunther watching from a distance. Gunther is absolutely seething, his pride completely shattered by this whole ordeal. A few days later, we see Blake looking at a document with a shocked expression, realizing he is standing in front of the massive Royal Magician Corps dormitory. Blake is wandering the massive dorms, completely lost and trying to find his room, while some other trainees immediately start judging him, calling him a shabby old commoner. Feeling the awkward vibes, our boy just decides to ignore them and keep looking, and he finally spots his room number, looking pretty relieved to have found it. He cheerfully opens the door, ready to meet his new roommate for the first time, only to find a fiery redhead named Sven who immediately asks who the hell he is. Blake introduces himself, but Sven is just stuck on the fact that he is rooming with an old man. This kid then connects the dots, realizing Blake is the legendary new guy who beat Gunther and calls him a liar. Our boy just sheepishly admits that yeah, his story does sound pretty unbelievable, which sends Sven into a state of shock, leaving Blake to wonder if the kid is even okay. Sven completely loses it, screaming that his life is over now that he has teamed up with a liar. And when Blake asks what he means, Sven explains that roommates are automatically on the same trainee team. Blake just apologizes for being old and promises he will not be a burden, which seems to calm the kid down a little bit, making him feel kinda bad. Sven then points out Blake's messy hair and offers to give him a quick trim before training, and just like that, they are bonding over a haircut, with Blake feeling totally refreshed. Sven suddenly remembers they are about to be late for their first training session, telling Blake to hurry up and get into his new uniform. Meanwhile, two other new trainees, Therese and Clara, are waiting for their teammates. When Blake and Sven show up, the girls just stare, wondering who the random old guy is. Blake tries to introduce himself to his new teammates, Therese and Clara, and Therese immediately starts complaining about having an old guy on their team. Clara tells her to chill, but Therese just calls her out for thinking the exact same thing. Our boy feels pretty awkward, realizing he is the only older recruit in the entire group, until an instructor calls him and Sven to the front to be introduced to everyone. Blake just gives a simple greeting, announcing that he is a barrier mage. This crowd immediately starts whispering, connecting him to the rumor about the guy who beat Gunther. Clara looks on with total skepticism, finding the story hard to believe, while Therese is just in denial that this old man could be that powerful. Sven, on the other hand, is having a complete meltdown, thinking they are doomed with a weak barrier mage. From the sidelines, a blonde instructor gives Blake a nasty glare, clearly not a fan. This guy then gets on stage, announcing that none of the recruits have been assigned a division yet, which means their performance in training will determine their final placement in the Corps. He then reveals their first test is a 2-week survival exercise hunting monsters in Mecha Forest. All the other trainees start freaking out since that forest is notoriously dangerous. This instructor just smirks at Blake, telling him he is unlucky before ordering everyone to get their gear. Sven is still panicking, saying there is no way a bunch of newbies can survive out there. This whole team turns to Blake, begging him not to hold them back, and he just quietly agrees. Everyone is then ordered into dragon-drawn carriages to be transported to the forest, and that same smug instructor gives Blake a final evil look, promising to show him hell. Sven is completely losing his mind after being dropped off, while Blake just calmly walks along like it is another Tuesday. And the kids realize they have been dumped in the absolute middle of nowhere. It sinks in that they have been isolated from all the other teams, basically drawing the short straw, which sends Sven into another spiral, screaming that his dream career is already over. Therese immediately calls him out for being a pathetic team leader, but he just yells back that he did not ask for the job. So Blake tries to play peacemaker, only for both of them to snap at him. Our boy, completely unfazed, just suggests they check the map to get their bearings, which is enough to get the two hotheads to stop bickering for a second. Looking at the map, they realize they are deep in Mecha Forest and have a long way to go, so Blake just smiles and says they should probably get a move on. Sven, trying to act like a leader, steels himself and agrees they have no choice but to push forward. This team begins their long and difficult journey through the rocky wilderness. And the trek through the dense vegetation does not look any easier. Soon enough, the younger mages are exhausted from the heavy packs and the rough terrain, but they notice Blake has not even broken a sweat, wondering if the old man is just built different. Finally, Blake announces that they have arrived at the forest entrance, much to everyone's relief. They all look up at the dark and intimidating Mecha Forest, the real test about to begin. Sven points out the deadly miasma that would kill a normal person instantly. Before the team checks their mission details, confirming their first target is a level 2 Komodo dragon. Blake asks what this whole level thing is, which makes Sven completely short-circuit, so the kid proudly explains the 10-tier monster ranking system like it is basic knowledge. And Blake just thanks him for the info, letting Sven have his little moment of expertise. These girls are already heading into the forest, forcing the guys to hurry up and catch them. And now the whole team is finally moving as one through the spooky woods. Suddenly, they hear something in the bushes, putting everyone on high alert, because a pack of nasty-looking goblins just jumped out to ambush them. This team freezes in place, realizing their first real test is already here, with Sven and Clara being the first to spot the incoming threat. Yep, it is a classic goblin welcome party, and they look ready for a fight. Sven smirks, calling them weak level 1 monsters while powering up a fire spell, confidently declaring he can handle this all by himself before launching his attack. His spell only hits one, and the other two goblins easily dodge and lunge right at him, leaving him wide open until a purple binding spell suddenly stops the attack cold. It was Clara who saved his butt, stepping in just in the nick of time. Sven is totally embarrassed, grumbling that he did not need her help at all. Right before Therese points out he is injured and starts healing him with her magic, Blake just watches the whole chaotic scene unfold, getting a feel for his new teammates. This girls then roasts Sven for his overconfidence, and he can only apologize for being a dummy. With their first little skirmish over, the team continues deeper into the forest. Just as they are walking, a massive man-eating plant monster sneaks up right behind them, and it snaps shut, but Blake accidentally trips and pulls them out of the way just in time. He plays it off cool, apologizing for falling over while the kids just stare at him, confused. But we see the truth: he secretly cast a spell on the ground to create a safe path. Blake just points ahead, saying he found a better route when he fell, and Sven totally buys it. These girls are already on the move, following the newly opened path through the dense forest, while our boy just gives a little smirk, knowing his plan to keep them safe is working. He then leads them to a cliff's edge, saying he can hear water in the distance. They find a river to camp by, but nobody notices the dozens of glowing red eyes watching from the trees. Later that night, Blake takes the first watch while everyone else is fast asleep by the fire. Of course, a massive lion beast immediately creeps out of the woods, ready to pounce on him. This monster lunges forward, going for the kill on the seemingly oblivious Blake, only to get absolutely decked by a surprise barrier that sends it flying sideways. Blake just glances back as the monster whimpers from its new home at the bottom of the river. Sven wakes up from the noise, asking if he heard something, but Blake casually says it was nothing. He tells the kid to go back to sleep, promising to wake him when it is his turn for watch. Sven is actually grateful, thanking him before heading back to his sleeping bag. Our boy just smiles, happy to see the team finally starting to trust him a little. For the rest of the night, he keeps a silent, glowing vigil over the entire campsite. This next day, Sven cannot help but notice how weirdly easy their journey has been so far. Clara starts getting suspicious, wondering if Blake is secretly clearing the path for them, but Therese just wants to get the mission over with, urging them toward the Komodo dragon's nest. Meanwhile, that smug instructor is gloating to himself, certain he sent the team to their doom. He reveals his little trap: their target is not a Komodo dragon at all. Instead, the team comes face to face with a massive level 4 salamander. And Therese immediately panics, screaming that a monster that strong could wipe out a village. This beast quickly corners them, cutting off any chance of escape, which sends Sven into a state of shock, completely paralyzed by fear. He has already given up, convinced there is absolutely no way they can win this fight. These girls are not doing much better, huddling together in pure terror, right as the salamander starts charging up a massive fireball attack, and unleashes a huge wave of fire directly at the helpless trainees. But as the girls brace for the end, they realize they do not feel any heat, because Blake is standing in front of them holding up a massive magical barrier.